This is a just for fun replay played by me and a couple of my friends back in 2001. This is a amateur video. None of us were anywhere close to being very pro gamers, but the reason I chose this match is it's kind of a fun match. This is me down in the bottom corner, and this is my ally, Erdrick. I guess I'll call him White to make things simple. And we used to play, let me get the speed up here. We used to play this play all the time. He would usually go Terragen, and I would usually go Protoss. The reason I'm playing Zerg here is because I had played a number of 1 versus 1 against this guy Natil, who was, I'll speed it up here to get things ahead, who is also at university with us, and basically he was kicking my butt with Zerg, so I decided to try to out-Zerg the Zerg player. And so I hadn't done very well with him 1 versus 1, so we challenged him for a 2 versus 2. And there he is putting down his an early spawning pool. So him being very confident in his play, he recruited his roommate to play against us, who's over here playing Protoss. But his roommate had never actually played Starcraft before, so he was a Command and Conquer player trying to play Starcraft for the first time. So you can see, that's part of the humor of this game. He was told here Red was told to explore here by Orange. So they're about to discover my ally up in the top. I'm about to discover the other Zerg player here just as his lings get out. And well, I don't know how to refer to him. He was the new player, the noob, or anyway, new to StarCraft player scouted me. So here's our opponent going to rush my ally. I mean, none of us had very good micro. Of course, this was 2001. The game's come a long way since then, but again, I'm not even going to pretend we were pro gamers here. There we go. So we broke that rush down. I'm sending in some support with my lings, and together with the lings and the... So as you can see, new to StarCraft, he's producing all his units from one gateway and ignoring the other gateway, and is at his supply cap. So there's just humorous little things like that make this a funny game. I mean, it's maybe a little unfair of me to make fun of somebody who's playing StarCraft for the first time, but there is some humor in it. And certainly now he's using his other gateway. And certainly, actually, he's got pretty good probe coverage. He's actually playing, considering it's his first time, he's actually playing pretty well. So that's the real question. Can one really good player and one Command and Conquer turned StarCraft player beat my friend? Now, I did tell my friend to bunker in, so he took my advice here. And typically what he would do is he would go for, here they're coming to attack. My lings out to defend, to help protect, and they retreat down to get me. Now, I saw that coming, so of course I have a few sunken colonies out. And at this point I think, I'm upgrading my lair. It's not a huge army. Oops, a little mistake there from my enemy, and I put a ling there to keep an eye on him for reinforcements. So our typical strategy would be, again, typically I would play Protoss, and what I would do is I'd put photon cannons and kind of cannon in my enemies, and my ally would support me with siege tanks. But of course he'd never actually seen me play Zerg before. Well, Zerg wasn't my main race, so he wasn't really sure what to do with me playing Zerg, because this was a very, we hadn't practiced it. And you can see none of us were, look at our APMs, we're all below 60 here. So I mean, this is before I even knew what APM was, back in 2001, 8 years ago. But so looks like he's kind of bypassing the factory tech and going straight for air. Which, I mean, when we play in the later games, sometimes he would go straight up to battle cruisers as quickly as possible. This was, of course, 2001, where basically games were won by battle cruisers, and if you were Protoss, you'd go for carriers. So I assumed he would be going battle cruisers here, but as you can see, instead, no, he's going wraiths. So there's a huge fleet produced by the, as I said, the novice player here, his first time playing. Of course, you can see he's leaving all these idle troops. He's not used to even what his troops look like. And they're about to rush me now. Fortunately, I am getting lurkers out just in time. I'll slow the speed down. So this is back down to normal speed. So because Red had never actually had never even seen or heard of lurkers before, this was very fortuitous for me because he just stood all his guys in a nice line where I took them out. The other Zerg player had a little bit more sense and tried to get away from my sunken colonies, but so that was a lot of troops, but a pretty ineffective attack for them. And here I go for the counter. I mean, this is long. This is, I guess you could say, 8 years before I even heard of this whole idea of stacking your mutas. Not to say that I'm good at stacking my mutas even now, but this is long before I even knew that was a viable strategy. And I don't know if I'm making the best bet here, going for trying to match these hydras. It probably would have been smarter for me to take these runs. If I was gonna, I probably said this already, but this is probably more of a how not to play Starcraft video than anything else. A humorous how not to play Starcraft. So, I'm just looking at that. That'd be a beautiful place to drop, wouldn't it? Anyway, there's my ally with his fleet of wraiths. Again, this poor guy does not understand the game at all, so he's just sticking with the first unit and going for the whole idea of produce lots and win. Now, the Zerg player, I think, here assumed that we would attack his ally, considering his ally had no air defense, so I think that was his rationale behind putting the hydras here. But while his hydras are out, we come in and brutalize him, so I decided overlords just to really, disrupt things. And here's my ally with some cloak wraiths taking out his expansion. And now his hydras are coming back to support, so we can speed it up here again. So it's pretty brutal. This is, I guess, the arrogance of the Zerg player thinking he could beat I mean, not to say that me and White are very good, but the Zerg player thought he could beat us with an ally who had never played Starcraft before. But I shouldn't get too far ahead here because the game's not over yet. But I mean, you can see we're just pretty much it's pretty much a 2-on-1. It's actually kind of painful to watch in some ways.